Hey guys, so I'm doing another video. This is I'm not going to go through them all and name them as part one, part two, part three, whatever, but this is the continuation of my going through the story collection. And today we're just covering one book because I've got several copies of this one, so it'll take a little bit. But it's also one of my favorite books. If you asked me at any point, what is your favorite King book? It's going to fluctuate between either The Stand or It. So, of course, we're going to be discussing The Stand, and I've combined them all together. It's the original release in the 70s, I believe 79, and then it's also the re-release that happened in the late 80s, early 90s, whatever that was. I want to say 1990 maybe. So I've kind of just put them all together, and I'll just go through all my copies of The Stand at once as we go through. So first I'm going to do the hardcover. So I have this copy here and this one here, and of course they're the same cover. Now this one is the mass market one, and this was the book club edition. Now the only real difference is on the Stephen King on the mass market one is actually embossed, so it's raised, whereas on the other one it's all flat. And then on the back, this one has a barcode, whereas the other one does not, but it is the same picture. So you can kind of see that. Next one on the same length, I'm kind of taking this one out of order just because it's a bit of a bigger book. I've got 4-in-1 separate. This one is a 4-in-1, but it is The Stand in French, the big edition. I also have my chocolate payday wrapper bookmark in there. And then I also have the Barnes & Noble, Stephen King's The Stand. You can see a picture there. And then the inside is very cool. There again, I want to say these might have been originally around $50, but I've seen them on sale, $25, $30 somewhere in there. So you should check it out at Barnes & Noble or Barnes & Noble online. Then I also have an old school book club edition of The Stand with the classic cover on there. I love that picture, that image. This one has August 13th, 1984, William Kevin Thomas. So William, if you're out there, I got your book. Then I also have this black cover of The Stand. It's a bit of a bigger paperback. It's bigger than the regular size paperback. Now these are a little bit more old school. There we again have The Stand. That's the image of the face with the bird. You can't really see it very well in this one. It's kind of hard to see, but it's a face and then part of it is the bird. And this one's got the blue at the top and the blue on the cover. And then I also have these versions where it's the same picture, but it's silver at the top. And then on the sides, or on the back, it's also silver instead of black. So it's a little bit different. Now these two are actually the same. There's no difference between them. Same SKU, same edition. This one though is the covers are a little bit different print wise, so I don't know if this one was a little misprinted, but you know, it's such an older book, you don't see them too often, so I don't mind having a little extra one in the collection just in case. And then when they re-released it as the complete and uncut edition in the 90s, I believe it was, this was the cover that came out with the shiny gold. And you saw the hardcover editions, and this was the paperback that came out shortly thereafter. And I remember the commercials that they were advertising. It was always Master of Horror Stephen King brings you for the first time original and uncut The Stand, and lightning would flash and the ground would crack. And yeah, they had big commercials about it all the time on TV about it being re-released. So they really did hype it up. Next we have, I love this cover actually, where it's Death on the Horse, The Stand. And this again is another complete and uncut edition. I want to say that was maybe late 90s, early 2000s. We also have this one from the 90s where it's The Crow. Then we have this cover. I have two of this, and the reason I have two of this is we have this cover here, and then it was also the similar cover they used on the World Book Night US edition for 2012. And apparently World Book Night is where different books around the world, it's like a day where they give out free books and everyone reads. And you know, in the US for this year, the choice was The Stand. And so it was a free copy. And of course I didn't get it for free. I had to pay for it at a thrift store. But I thought that was just cool. It's the same cover, just, you know, a little different. Then we have, and here again, this is one of those examples of a pristine copy versus a reader's copy where, you know, it's kind of beat up and the other one is not. And this is from the movie, the mini series from the 90s. for The Stand, which, again, I'm a huge fan of. So thought that was kind of cool, the movie tie-ins. I'm a big fan of that. Except they don't do pictures in the movie tie-ins in the more modern books for some reason, which I'm kind of sad about. They did it in the 80s. They kind of stopped it in the 90s, and you don't really see that anymore with the movie tie-ins, which is disappointing. Bring that back. Speaking of movie tie-ins, we have the not god-awful, but not the greatest remake that came out in the, what was it, 2020, 2021, whatever. We've got the bigger edition here, and then it's the same cover. It's just a slightly different size, a little smaller. You can kind of see that. So, I watched it. I enjoyed it. I actually was lucky enough to get invited to an early preview of it. So 2 weeks before the before the series actually premiered, I actually got to watch it online with a group of people, and then partake in a group activity afterwards, and got a neat little souvenir package in the mail after that. So that was really fun. I really enjoyed being selected to do that and being able to do that. But yeah, overall, I'd probably watch it again. I haven't watched it since it originally came out. I know they changed up the ending a little bit, but King wrote that new ending, and I didn't think it was such a bad ending. So I know some people didn't care for it, but to each their own. And then that brings us to the final section, the international books. And I know this one, it's international, even though technically it's still English. It is the British UK edition, Stephen King's The Stand. And there again, Stephen King in the metallic font. This time it's green. And then, they usually, like I said, this kind of cover, they have like a flash of lightning with a face of some sort in it. That's the very kind of similar theme. I wish I could find the name of the publishing house. I want to say it was like Fuga, New English Library? Is that what it is? Something like that. Anyway, I've got several of these type of covers. I think they're really cool. It's neat when you can find them. Then I have a Japanese version of The Stand. Now, the thing about the Japanese covers is they do them in increments. This is not the whole book. There's like 1, 2, 3, and 4. And the thing is, their covers actually tie in all together. So, book 2 would be here, and it's probably like the other half of the car, and then book 3 would be here, and then book 4, and then they do that on a lot of Japanese covers. They also do that in some of the French ones as well. Speaking of which, that brings us to the French Stand. Books 1, 2, and 3, they broke it up, and if you can see on the covers, they all kind of go together to make one picture. Like, how cool is that? So the French ones do that, and some of the Japanese ones do that. Then I do also have one where I don't know if this is like an abridged edition or what's going on there, but it is a single copy of The Stand in French. So I think this one might be the original unedited edition, so it's not as big. And then finally, this was my first book that I got in this particular language. It is The Stand in Chinese. And this was a former library book. Looks like it was formerly in the New York Public Library system. So they had withdrawn it, and it was up for sale online. So I am always looking for a foreign edition of any book of his. So I picked it up, and I can't complain about that. So that is actually my Stand book collection. I don't really have much to say about it. It is, like I said, one of my favorite books. I've read it multiple times over the years. It used to be one of those books where I read it like once every 2 years or so. Haven't listened to it probably for about 4 or 5 years. Might have to go back and do that. It is about the time of season where I usually do. Fall, where everyone starts getting sick with the flu. That's usually Stand season. And it's usually something I listen to in the summer. So it might be time to listen to The Stand again. But I hope everybody is staying safe and keep reading.